This is Retirement Keys with Anthony Congemi from Crescent City Retirement Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Anthony provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Retirement Keys with your host, Anthony Congemi.
All right, hello and welcome to another show of Retirement Keys. My name's Anthony Congemi with Crescent City Retirement Group, and we are so pleased that you're joining us here this morning. We have our co-host, as we do every Sunday morning, Tony Shore. Before we get started with the show, Tony, thank you so much for being here. How was your week?
Oh, I've had a great week, Anthony. My Vikings are 5-0 now, so I'm a happy camper when it comes to football. I'm really happy, and I'm looking forward to being down there. I'm gonna be over at your office talking with you and your staff about radio and marketing. So maybe on adding a little bit to the show for our listeners out there. I think that's great. But I've been good this past weekend. My wife and all our kids came out. Our kids are grown now, but they all came back home to celebrate my wife Sarah's birthday, and we went out to an apple orchard and picked apples, and then went back to our house, and everybody baked like apple crisp, apple pie, all these great things. The house still smells great from all the apple.
Oh, wow, that's
baking.
kind of a neat. That was a neat idea.
That was my wife's. We asked, what do you want to do for your birthday? That's what she wanted. So we did it, and it was a lot of fun. Everybody showed up, and it was great. Everybody and their significant others. So that was awesome. How about you, Anthony? What have you been up to?
Well, Tony, as we talked about a little earlier before we started the show, I mean, the weather has just been fabulous this time of year. It really has, and there's all sorts of festivals. We just came off the Gretna Festival, which is really fabulous. I mean, it's one of the best. They have some of the best bands and the food, but so there was a couple of festivals this past weekend that we really enjoyed, and just really enjoying the outdoors right now, Tony. The weather's just great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to spending some time there. I love hanging out in the French Quarter, checking out some jazz music. That's always fun. I'm a big jazz fan, so that's always a blast, especially this time of year when the weather is so beautiful in the New Orleans area. It's just great.
Yeah, you're gonna. We're looking forward to you coming, Tony. And I tell you what, man. The people come. The food, you can't go wrong. Music, I mean, we've got it all down here. So you're really going to have a good time. We're really looking forward to you coming to actually get a little work done too. We're going to get our show and some of our show topics set up for the end of this year and then going into next year. So we'll have a menu of shows coming up. And be a little more, proactive with the show topics as we go. And so we're looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, that's going to be a blast. And it's going to be a great time. Now, a lot of people this time of year start thinking about, hey, where am I at with my finances? Where am I at with my spending? And we've been trying to talk about this the last few weeks, but I know, Anthony, you've told me that the number one question you get from people who you meet with is, how do I know I'm not going to run out of money in retirement? What do I need to do to make sure I've got a plan in place for income in retirement? And you came across this, you have an ultimate retirement checklist that you wanted to talk about. And there's a lot in there for our listeners, right?
There really is. So Commonwealth put out the Ultimate Retirement Inventory Checklist, and it was really well done. And it's it's really a great piece. We want to send it out to our listeners if they would like to have it. But yes, it's talking a lot about income in retirement. And that is, Tony, as you know, so important. It's really a foundational piece to anyone's retirement plan, of course, is income planning and where the income is going to come from, what the tax implications are of that income. Obviously, we all want to be very tax efficient. We don't want to pull money out of the wrong account at the wrong time. So tax efficiency, but really answering the first question, which is probably the most important question, which is how much income should I be planning for in retirement? What am I going to need in retirement as it relates to income, net income after taxes, after insurance? Like, what's our take-home pay going to be? What do we need in retirement to not only, pay our bills and expenses, but also to have the lifestyle, right? The retirement lifestyle that we are looking for. So this is really a foundational and a critical aspect of retirement planning, Tony, is income.
Yeah, that's true. The biggest part of retirement planning, period, is retirement income. How are you going to have income in retirement? And a lot of people just assume, oh, between Social Security and my 401k, I'll be fine. But that's not a plan, is it?
No, it's really not. It's really important. And as this ultimate retirement inventory checklist points out, the very first part of this checklist starts talking about making a good list of all of your assets and liabilities and making that assessment. And what's important about this list with the assets, it's going to be real important as to understanding how things are titled and how things are taxed. So when this asset list is created, we are looking at the titling and we're looking at tax implications of those assets. So when you start to build a distribution strategy, having that asset list is going to be really first and foremost.
Yeah, there you go. You have to start there, right? And you have to work with a financial professional. I know that's going to be brought up a couple of times on the show today because that's the number one thing in my book. You shouldn't tackle this alone. There's no reason to tackle this alone. So, Anthony, before we go any further, if our listeners have questions while you're talking about some of these things or want to get a plan in place to incorporate all this, how can they get a hold of you?
Sure. So if you don't have a retirement income plan in place, or if you have a plan and you just would like to see if it, get a second opinion or get a comparison, by all means, that's what we're here for. You go log on to crescentcityretirement.com and you can reach out to us that way, or just simply pick up the phone and call 504-828-2171 so we can have that discussion. Assets are so important to making sure how they're titled and taxed. And then the other piece of this, Tony, is liabilities. What are the liabilities that we have? And making a good inventory of those liabilities, not only the liabilities that we have, but the expenses. So understanding liabilities, it is a sense of, is there any mortgage balances left, any loans, any credit card debt, any potential future obligations.
Right. Debts. Look at your debt, minimize that debt before retirement if you can, right?
Oh, absolutely. Or make sure that we have a debt reduction strategy in place. If you spend any time with even the Dave Ramsey courses, he talks a lot about debt reduction and paying off those high interest loans first. So again, getting a good list of the liabilities, the mortgages, credit cards, any potential future obligations, and making sure that we have a good strategy in place to get that debt off of you. So that's going to be important. The other piece of this is comparing your current expenses and income to your projected expenses and income in retirement. So things like housing, food, healthcare, discretionary income, travel, hobbies. So all of these things have to go into, and I like to just say lifestyle, Tony. I mean, what besides expenses and, housing and healthcare and food and, there certainly needs to be some discretionary income in a overall retirement income strategy, right? So making sure that we know what assets are going to be participating in our retirement income plan, how those distributions are going to be taxed, and then what expenses and discretionary income will we need in retirement to enjoy the retirement that we hope for. These are all very important aspects.
Well, yeah, they really are. And I think that people need to understand how their assets are allocated or need to be allocated. And in doing so, you can make really costly mistakes that could cost you your retirement if your assets aren't really allocated properly and you don't have a plan in place to do that. And of course, liabilities, your expenses, you have to plan those out, and your debt, work on that. So 3 big categories really right there: assets, spending, and debt. Debt reduction is important, and there are a lot of methods. And you mentioned Dave Ramsey. That's, there's positives and minuses. To Dave, he's not necessarily a financial professional, but his debt relief program is great. And I know he really pitches the snowball or avalanche methods, and you do the same for your clients. And I think that's fantastic. So, but risk is another next on the list as far as the ultimate retirement checklist. And we've done many shows on risk, right? And we've talked about the color of money, but assessing how much risk your money is at, your retirement funds, because you don't want too much of your retirement income at risk, right?
No, absolutely not, Tony. And so, how that is determined, of course, everybody's risk tolerance and their, risk profile, if you will, can be different. But what's real important here is to look at what assets need to be liquid or distributed for income and what that time horizon is. I don't think there's anyone, that's listening to our show today that wouldn't, agree that maybe a 50-year-old could take on more risk than a 60-year-old. And most people would say, well, sure, or a 60-year-old could take on more risk than even a 65 or a 70-year-old.
Sure.
So most people would agree, sure, the older you are, the more conservative you should be. But the question I have, because we all agree with that, right? But the question I have is, why is that? Why is that so? Why is that true? And of course, the answer is because the older you get, the less time you have to needing to start pulling that money out or taking those distributions. So time horizon is so important as it relates to retirement income planning. Now, the accounts that we're going to use to distribute income, let's say in the first 5 years of retirement, should be invested differently than accounts that are invested that won't need to start generating or producing income for 10 years in retirement. So the time horizon and the bucketing of funds, depending on when those funds need to be available for income, is so important. That's why the investment strategy and how the funds and how your portfolio is invested and the time horizon as to when the funds need to be available, those two need to be in sync. Investments with income that needs to be available off of those investments. So, when people talk about an accumulation strategy, we talk about working and saving and working and saving. And in most of our cases, it's very automatic. You work, and you get paid every couple of weeks and money comes out of your paycheck and you automatically accumulate in a 401k or some type of retirement plan. And it's a very automatic thing, this accumulation phase. But when you move into the preservation and distribution phase, this is something a little different. We're not working and saving anymore. Now we're not putting money in, if you will, we're taking money out. And so there was an analogy drawn about a mountain. You climb up the mountain, you get to the top of the mountain. Now you have to come down the mountain. And coming down the mountain is that distribution phase. And it really has to be laid out. That distribution strategy, because of the tax implications, because of taking too much risk in the market in portfolios that need to be generating income, all of that has to be worked out. And a distribution income plan is very easy to look at. Then you have Social Security and how that strategy is going to tie in. So distribution planning and retirement income planning really is a specialty in and of itself in terms of financial planning. And it's very important to have a very smart, very tax efficient distribution strategy. And Tony, we use the Retirement Compass. That's our platform for our distribution planning, which is really a state-of-the-art platform. I know there's others out there, but nevertheless, if you don't have a distribution strategy that takes all the spokes of the wheel, whether it be Social Security, your investments, your 401k, your Roth account, your after-tax dollars, if we don't have something that's dialing all that in to really have an income plan that's smart, that's tax efficient, and that works, you're really just, throwing darts at a wall without that type of structure.
Yeah, and you don't want to do that. You don't want any guesswork or maybe this will work when it comes to planning your retirement. It's one of the most important things in parts of your life. It's basically a third of your life right there, at least. And so people need to plan for it, and a lot of people put it off, which they should not do. And I think to get our listeners on the right path so they can get a written plan, I know you and your staff are offering a no-charge, no-obligation consultation. All they have to do is call in, and they can get a copy of the list we're talking about. So how can our listeners get a hold of you, Anthony?
Sure. Just give us a call. Pick up the phone, 504-828-2171. That's 504-828-2171. Or go to our website at crescentcityretirement.com and let us know that you'd like a retirement income plan. We'd love to put one together for you. Everything's included: the tax efficiency, the Social Security strategy, the distribution planning. It's all there. Very easy to look at. It's something that you absolutely are going to want to have, whether you making a comparison or getting a second opinion. This Retirement Compass is really a 5-star retirement income planning platform that we utilize here. And I can't say enough about it. So by all means, if you'd like to have a retirement income plan and see exactly how your retirement's going to look, call our office at 504-828-2171.
All right. Well, we've covered a lot already. I know that a major part, and you alluded to it, but planning for inflation, you work that into all the plans for your clients, don't you? And the people that come there for a plan, you factor in inflation, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we did a show last week on inflation, but certainly we all recognize that things that what they call, what items cost today are going to be quite different 5 years, 10 years from now.
Yeah.
And so having a distribution strategy that incorporates and inflation increase so our standard of living doesn't go backwards is so important in a retirement income plan, Tony. It absolutely.
And then health care costs also have to be factored in, and I think a lot of people underestimate because they think Medicare is going to cover it all, right?
That's it, and so I tell you, inflation, risk, longevity of life, healthcare costs. We talk a lot about the 5 keys to a stress-free retirement and the 5 key areas, right, that we believe should be addressed in any holistic retirement plan, and that's estate and legacy planning, how things are going to pass on, an investment strategy, not just investments, but an investment strategy. Of course, income planning, which is the foundational piece, healthcare planning, and then, of course, taxes.
Sure.
And taxes, Tony, permeate the whole thing. Everything that we discuss, whether it's estate planning, healthcare, investments, or income, taxes are going to infiltrate all of those ideas. So being tax smart, being tax efficient along the way is critical, because those are the small foxes, if you will, that can eat up and destroy the vine. It's the little things, Tony, that if you can clean those things up, and it's just really astonishing how a very efficient retirement strategy can look versus something that's not efficient. And so that's what we hope to do here at Crescent City Retirement Group. And that's what we want to do, is just offer you a second opinion. So if you would like that, if you would like to see a full plan, your plan, custom to you and your life, your family, your situation, just give us a call, 504-828-2171, or visit us online at crescentcityretirement.com.
So, Anthony, I think that's fantastic. So the Social Security maximization report, the Compass report for the overall income plan, then you'll be well on your way to having a solid plan in place. But don't go it alone. Work with a financial professional. I know that the consultations, there's no cost for that. And then you can look at overall investments. Where are people's money at? How is it invested? How much is at risk? You talked about asset allocation earlier in the show, and that is huge. So as we wind down the show today, is there anything else about retirement income, and that ultimate retirement checklist that you want to add?
Well, I'd like to just circle back and say, when you said investments, asset allocation and investments, when you think about the list of investments, whether it be bank CDs, blue chip stocks, bonds, corporate bonds, government bonds, fixed annuities, indexed annuities, ETFs, exchange traded funds, mutual funds. It's not a question of, this investment is better than that investment, or this is better than that. It's really the tools in the toolbox. So the types of investments that you would use, depending on what the objective is. If the objective is liquidity and emergency money for a particular block of money, well, then obviously some very short-term fixed income, but very short-term instruments where the money is liquid, right? If the investment is income for the rest of my life and I need structured income, well, then, so what I'm saying is, using the appropriate investments and tools for the job, the objective that we're giving that money is so important, Tony. Pairing the investments with the strategy, with the income strategy. That's why investment strategies and income planning really go hand in hand. You can't talk about an income plan without talking about an investment strategy. You really can't. So asset allocation, the appropriate investments for the job we're giving it to do, is so important, Tony. And that's, of course, as you know, what the Retirement Compass pulls together. We look at the investments, we look at the tax implications, we look at the distribution strategy, we look at the required minimum distributions when everything defaults to RMDs to make sure we have a smooth transition with our qualified funds. We don't want to see a big spike up. We don't want to see a big drop. We want to use our tax bracket very efficiently along the way. Tony, it's a distribution strategy, which frankly is different than an accumulation strategy. And so for a lot of our listeners, you know, they're very familiar with saving and accumulating, but the distribution planning is so key. And this needs to be looked at long before you retire. Now, if you're retired, looking at a distribution plan and making sure that your plan is efficient is every bit as important. So it's, if you don't have a tax smart distribution strategy, or you would like to get a second opinion on one, by all means, give our office a call or check us out at crescentcityretirement.com so we can get a plan in place for you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Anthony. And listeners, thanks for tuning in today. Give that number one more time before we go, Anthony.
Sure. It's area code 504-828-2171. That's 504-828-2171.
All right, and that does it for today's episode of Retirement Keys with our host, Anthony Congemi. Thank you for listening to Retirement Keys. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, please contact Anthony Congemi at Crescent City Retirement Group. Call 504-828-2171 or visit the website at crescentcityretirement.com.
All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.